What is happening? You are back for another episode of Opinions from Offside, and you can probably hear the giggles from behind Alicia Lehman's arse, which is becoming a real regular feature on Opinions from Offside. And this is the way that Kanye hides from us, our special guest. But we're going to reveal our special guest. Our special guest today is George Lista, football coach, former set-piece coach, worked in Tenerife for a while, and I'll let him tell you all about where he's worked around the world. He's not only a football coach and a brilliant football mind, he's also a bit of an football insider, and he's going to give us some insight into the whole situation, the sticky mess with Manchester United and Ruud van Nistleroy. And also, as a Portuguese native, he's going to tell us a little bit about Ruben Amorin, or I'm saying that wrong, aren't I, George? But we're having a bit of problems with George's internet connection, so bear with us. I'm going to hand you over to Kanye now. He's going to give a proper introduction. And fingers crossed, we're going to be able to hear from George.
Right. So basically, we want to get George on because a few episodes ago, we spoke about this snidey backhand deal that we saw with Van Nistelrooy, where one of my friends had let me know that Ruud was promised if Ten Hag goes, he would get the interim job to the end of the year and it would be his job to lose. Now, from my other man inside, George, who has heard some other details and put together with his body language. What is that robotic stuff?
Wow. Just as he bailed on the call, his internet seemed to get better. So as I explained, he is having some issues with his internet because he is in a secret location. So we're going to try to bring him in again. He looks clear. He looks crystal clear. We can see you, George. Can we hear you?
I'm in a CIA black site at the moment,
mate. Well, that sounds perfect. We can see you, we can hear you, and we are happy to introduce you, and we're ready to hear sort of what you know about this situation.
Okay, I missed everything. All I could hear was.
That's all right. Right.
I said.
So basically, what I was saying was that the rumours that I'd heard about Van Nistelrooy, that he'd been promised the interim job if Ten Hag goes to take the job, right? So he's took the Man U job.
Yeah,
Ten Hag's now gone.
It's gone again. If you can hear me, I'll just waffle if you want.
Waffle.
Yeah.
Waffle.
Okay. All right, good. Do the Wi-Fi check. Okay, so my understanding, I know there's been some rumors or some tips. I don't know where they've come from. I don't know what I just saw there, but all right. Is that there's some kind of pre-arrangement which would make sense with Ruud van Nistleroy independently. His most recent interview that he had, a little presser that he had, just revealed a few things that sort of triggered my thinking on what I'd heard before, maybe or maybe not through members of this channel, directly, indirectly, or on the show. I can't remember, so I don't want to make myself liable suddenly. It smacks of a massive lack of foresight on the business side upstairs, or what I'd call them just the HR recruitment people at Man United. Because it is almost like a HR blunder that you're watching happening right in front of you, whether fans realize this or not. It's a massive. It's a further embarrassment about how that club is being run or misrun. I'm being a lot harsher than I was when we were speaking privately, but it's just annoying to watch. So what I would imagine has happened, to give it an origin story, I believe that either the idea was tabled about having Van Nistelrooy at the club, whether directly or indirectly from him to further up, or I don't think that this was something that was initiated by Eric Ten Hag. This might be common knowledge because I'm not in the situation. I haven't been paying attention to the whole thing until recently. I don't know exactly how he got to the club. And if I was to just hazard a blind guess, I'd imagine that there would have been some rapport building, some meetings to see whether, Van Nistelrooy and his charisma and his reputation, whatever, with the manager in his own language, them both being Dutch, whether it would be seen as a positive, him coming in as part of their sort of crisis handling and improving the optics from the outside in, having someone like him next to him that's actually not going to undermine him, but it is kind of a bit of a, it leaves that sort of seed of doubt where people are looking at that and going, is Van Nistelrooy there because Ten Hag is on his way out? Everybody knows that Ten Hag is on his way out, that he's hanging on by a thread anyway, so that's not really, it's a no-brainer. There's more positives than bad, but I don't think they could have imposed Van Nistelrooy on Ten Hag. I think there would have been okay, let's see how we can work it out. Come to a couple of training sessions, have a bit of a dinner, whatever it might have been, or a few, share some ideas, and then there's your role that you fit in within Ten Hag's operation, or rather our club. And the agreement that would have been reached, I'd imagine, again, this is all with a pinch of salt. I don't know, I'm not privy to any negotiations. This is just a fan's view, really, if we look at it. Would have been a separate agreement with Manchester United, the club. This is employing Van Nistelrooy directly, or rather contracting him, okay, like a freelancer or an outside expert coming in. It's not it. I believe, and in fact, they've kind of confirmed it, that it was never tethered to Eric Ten Hag's contract, i.e., look, you're coming in with Eric, part of the team with Eric. This is all for Eric. And if it doesn't work out, there's your exit along with that. If you decide, or we decide in our recruitment process, that we're going to retain your services in whatever shape or form, then that's a negotiation for later on. Nah, I think it was very clear. Ten Hag is not an if he goes, it's a when he goes. So if everybody knows there's a when, then you negotiate your contracts plural, right there and then. So he would have had an assistant manager's contract and maybe a heads of agreement, a sort of pre-negotiated terms for an interim. If I'm in Van Nistelrooy's shoes, I'm agreeing a mirrored incentive package that Ten Hag is on for the interim period. So the longer that interim period is, the better it is. But it's not all just about money. This is just what your negotiation team and you would do to get what's best for you, right? You're not doing interim on an assistant manager's deal. It would have been a different type of deal, different type of bonus structure that you'd want. Now, what they didn't do quite clearly is they didn't terminate the assistant coach's contract. He is employed as an assistant manager through assistant coach through to next season, through to next year. All right. So if the interim thing doesn't work out, and it isn't because Ruben Amorim's coming in, he's still employed contractually, which means what? Man United are imposing or have presented Van Nistelrooy as part of the package to Ruben Amorim? No. There's a possibility that Ruben Amorim, through some kind of interview and meeting and selection process, would retain Van Nistelrooy as part of his team. At the moment, you guys are frozen, so I'm just waffling on anyway, right? But what's become apparent, which nobody's necessarily pointing the finger at Man United's executive level, is that they're saying that Sporting Lisbon are having Ruben Amorim remain at the club for what is a 30-day notice period, which is part of their contract. Whether that's true or not, okay, because they don't have to show the contract, I don't think. But anyway, I'm not 100% sure that's right. what I think is that at Sporting Lisbon as a club, their communications have been clean, clear, direct. He's going. We've got a release clause that's been met. Deal is as good as done. That's the comms out of Sporting. Okay, so for it to now be a case that Sporting said the deal is done, but with an asterisk, he has to stay until. I'm not sure that's entirely correct, because on the Sporting side, it's clear that there's an exit. It's agreed. The finances, everything is agreed. What's not clear? Van Nistelrooy. Van Nistelrooy's employment at Man United is not clear. He's not been dismissed along with Eric Ten Hag as an assistant coach. He's retained and has a contract as an assistant coach, as well as this interim thing. So the interim thing, does it allow, or is this sort of delay between them part of, well, let's see whether we can arrange meetings between Ruben and Ruud, sharing of ideas, or planning the transition, or managing the optics around suddenly Ruud being there and not being there anymore, because now we look like complete clowns because now we've brought in Ruud. He's now stated publicly, which bends Man United over a barrel. Oh, I'm interim, but I serve the club and I'm going to be here. I have a contract until next year. As soon as you say that, it's clear that things have not been agreed or negotiated or clear with him, because he's now acting in the press like a loose cannon. But it's not something the average fan, no disrespect, is gonna pick up on. They're just gonna look at that and go, yeah, he's there, and he's gonna be there. And if Ruben keeps him or not, by the by. But actually coming out and talking about your contractual situation and making a point to say, well, after this interim, I'm still assistant coach. Yeah. It's an awkward situation. It seems like there's a manipulation going on, potentially with Ruud being a clever striker, of the PR around this transition period. And I'm just waffling on, and I can't even tell whether you can hear me or not.
Yeah, we can. We can hear you. We're listening intently. We're ready to reply.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're struggling to hear us. So
can't hear anything.
What have you picked up on there, Mike? What do you think?
You could try WhatsApp me in writing, and I can see it coming up on my screen. I can answer you, but I honestly right now I can't hear what you're actually saying.
Right, so I'm thinking, Fraser, Kanye. Maybe
I'm not even calling you Kanye, but okay, all right.
Yeah, we'll
reply. Okay.
We'll maybe thank George for his contribution and let him go because he's struggling with the internet. And maybe you'll drop him a text to give him your thanks, Kanye. And then we'll sort of chew over. So I'm gonna remove him from the stream now with our gratitude, because he's having an internet problem. So what we'll do now is we'll maybe chew the fat about what we're hearing there from George. And it seems to me, in a sense, like Man United are in a situation where they've independently, if I'm getting this right, they've independently given Ruud van Nistleroy some kind of contract. And now it's not a case of getting rid of Eric Ten Hag and all of his backroom staff. That doesn't include Van Nistelrooy. So now we're in a situation, what we call in East London as a spare prick at a wedding. We've kind of got like a spare part here as such. And I just see that's only going to cause confusion. What are you taking from that?
Hey, I get the point. I mean, we said this in a previous podcast about the Van Nistelrooy thing and the job. And then, as you pointed out, you're basically bringing in someone who's, I'm walking in your shoes. I'm ready to take your job. So how is it going to work? Now, Van Nistelrooy is in the exact same position. Like, you are in a position you're not wanted, because Amorim is going to come in with his own coaching staff. And I think Van Nistelrooy will understand what Amorim's going to be in, because when Van Nistelrooy came to United, United went and got him. It wasn't the other way around. He wasn't applying for the job. They came and got him. He'd had a taste of management, of being a top dog. That's what the reason was. They brought him back. Listen, you'll step in. Now, Amorim, why the hell would I want you there, knowing you were brought in to work with him, but you were going to take his job? So what, you're going to sit in the background and undermine me and wait to take my job? Not a chance, mate. Not a chance. Van Nistelrooy, in my opinion, is no matter how good of a coach he is, because of this, the rumor going around before, obviously before Ten Hag went, you can't have that. You can't be. I mean, you wouldn't do that if you were managing a place, and then the assistant manager comes. I come in as your assistant, knowing like, listen, by the way, if you get the sack, I get your job, and then I take you. Then how can you work with me properly? You can't.
No, but I mean, we were only speculating that there was undermining going on. I said it kind of tongue in cheek on the last episode as a "don't get me started" kind of rant. That you know, if he's the sort of forward coach and the forwards are failing to put the ball in the net, then I sort of said like tongue in cheek that maybe he's sabotaging Ten Hag because he's got designs on the job himself. But obviously, there's no evidence to suggest that's true. Is there any value in keeping him as a forward coach? The start of the season and their goal return, 7 or 8 goals or whatever it is in 9 league games, would suggest not.
Of course,
but I'm not sure of Van Nistelrooy's managerial credentials in his own right. Who has he managed and at what level?
I think he did Feyenoord for a little bit before Slot took over.
Right.
Yeah. So, Georgia sent me a little message to cover over later on. I'm sure he's at Feyenoord or maybe another Dutch club and didn't set the world alight. And it's one of those where we've spoken about before. If he wasn't Ruud van Nistelrooy, he wouldn't have got that job. Not a chance. Same as like some of the jobs Rudy's got. So it's not as if like he's had to come with a coaching background. I mean, being honest, I mean, look at what they did with Benny McCarthy with Rashford. Rashford was scoring goals. He had McCarthy. They let McCarthy go. Put Van Nistelrooy in. To do what? To get what out of who? You've got 2 number 10s. You've got 1 striker now and apparently 3 or 4 wingers. What does he need to do?
This was my argument the other day about swapping out the manager is not necessarily going to be the quick fix for Man United because there seems to be a muddle in the boardroom. Like, I'm not as up on Man United as I am on obviously West Ham, but there's muddied waters in terms of the ownership, isn't there?
I mean, I was going to say, not for Man United owners by the sound of it. Jesus Christ.
No, yeah.
I mean, let's not forget, they've brought in 3 senior staff members. They've poached 1 from Manchester City, who apparently is a genius. They've poached 1 from Southampton in Jason Wilcox. And what's then's wrong? You've given your manager who won your FA Cup, bear in mind, he's won 2 trophies in 2.5 years. Again, we've spoken about this. What level do Man United think they're at? Like, you're not top 4. You're not top 6. At the minute, the league don't lie. You're 14th. You're the 14th best team in the league. Like, the league doesn't lie. So what level do you think you're at? I mean, this is the level that Liverpool were at when we got rid of Hodgson. And luckily enough, we bounced back quite quickly. But this could easily be a shaky one. It only takes a couple of bad investments, a couple of bad decisions, a couple of bad VARs, a couple of bad sackings. I mean, we had Beanie on a couple of episodes ago, and he said how quickly it was. 1 decision leads to 2 bad decisions, 2 leads to 4. Before you know it, the money's out the door. That nearly rhymed.
Devil's avocado, though. It's only 1 or 2. It's only 1 or 2 signings, 1 or 2 decisions to be devil's avocado to be going up the table. And although Manchester United are in a bit of a mess at the moment and a bit of a mess in the boardroom from top to bottom, you have to say. Sorry, my wife just came away to me. You have to say.
Lost your train of thought, then, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you have to say it is still early in the season. 9 league games gone. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's really is too early. You normally would give a club, at least 10 or 15 games or getting towards Christmas where you start to see the table forming and giving its true self. You might have a great start. West Ham, for example, might have a great start and win the first 3 games or 5 games or 6 games and they're in the top 3. It doesn't mean you hold out much hope that after 38 games they're still going to be there. So, all in fairness to them, all is not lost at the moment. It's just a case of being a bit up in the air and being on a bit of a wobbly footing. But George is absolutely right in what he's saying. It's a bit of a clusterfuck because, and I'm paraphrasing him, it's a bit of a clusterfuck because you're getting pieces of the puzzle that you're not necessarily asked for. And like we said at the beginning, he's almost like a spare piece there. And you don't know if he's going to be in Amorin's plans. It's a shame that George is having the struggles with the internet. And maybe you can give us like a separate video on it because I would have liked a Portuguese insight on Amorim's playing style. Not only that, and his temperament. Is he the kind that will sort of suffer fools gladly? Will he put up with an extra coach? You know, like referencing again what I know with my team, West Ham. Sullivan has a penchant for buying gifts and giving presents, and you'll get some South American striker from the second division in Brazil that no one's ever heard of turning up on your training ground on a Monday morning. And some managers put up with that and some won't. They're absolutely not. I'm interested to know if Amorin would be the kind of coach that would say, okay, he's already here, let's find him a place, or if he'd say, absolutely not, I'm coming over with my team and that's it, no outsiders, you know?
Well, I'd imagine that. I mean, look at the old incident with when something come out recently about the West Ham offer, why West Ham were happy to turn it down. I thought it was Amorim that turned it down. Apparently it was West Ham that
Wouldn't pay
was
money.
sort of, yeah. And one of the reasons why they wouldn't pay the money is because of the whole, I didn't know he did this, but he came to speak to West Ham 2 weeks before the end of the Portuguese season. The league wasn't tied up. Mathematically, it wasn't tied up. I mean, it was pretty much tied up, but it wasn't tied up. So that apparently came across as you're willing to meet us when you've got. That's more respect for me to go. Listen, I appreciate your interest. It's 2 weeks to the end of the season. Let me see at the end of the year. Let me see what happens here, and then we'll speak. And there was none of that. There's a reason why Liverpool chose Slot over him.
He went back with his tail between his legs, though, didn't he? Kind of groveling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's a strange one. It'll be interested to see what they're going to do with Van Nistelrooy and if he's going to stay around. I mean, what is as Jules touched on, and I would have liked his internet to have been better, so we could have asked him. Does he even know what his kind of severance package would be? Because, you know, football managers and coaches are the only industry I can think of in the world where if you are inept at your job and you're not good enough and your performance is not good enough, not only do you get relieved of your duties, but you actually get paid in full until the end of your contract, which is wild. And then, you know, rather than, you know, if you got sacked as a bar manager, you wouldn't get paid up for the next 5 years, would you? And when you go for your next job, if you've been sacked, you might be lucky to be on the same wages. You don't get to go, okay, I want more money now to come into the next position. You know what I mean? And that's what coaches and managers get. It just seems like a mess. Man United fans, let us know below if you have any more insight on this. Do you think it's going to work out with Amorin and Ruud van Nistleroy still hanging around? Do you think that Ruud was expecting to be in the hot seat and get the job after Ten Hag? Are you glad he's gone? I know that's the general consensus. Is there many Man United fans out there that would have liked to have given him a little bit more time? You know, given that it was quite harsh the way his time acrimoniously ended with a dodgy penalty decision at West Ham. You know, are there any contrary opinions? Let us know your comments. Anything else you want to talk about?
I've got a post from George. So George gave me a couple of statements to read. So he's put on there, the issue is that a contract situation in a Sacking problem, the optics of dismissing Ruud after bringing him in and whatever it cost the club, conversation-wise, if you are a shareholder, you'd be fuming. Now, I'm going to be guessing they went and got Ruud. He must have a decent severance pay. I mean, the rumour I'm hearing, it's not far off what Ten Hag's is. That's what I'm hearing, apparently, right? So
several million at the very, you know, you can say that safely, yeah.
He's also got the fact that you've looked over a club legend. Now, Van Nistelrooy was a club legend. I know when he left, it was a bit of a fallout with Fergie, but what he did for the club, he was a new breed of striker that didn't last around. He was just a poacher. He was brilliant. That make the club look dumb, cost the club money by mishandling the employment situation. They can't force Ruud to stay on different terms. That's a breach of an issue. The challenge is how to handle this interim and transition when you've made assurances and allowed a legend to come in and cultivate relationships with squad members that are out of the control of Ruben Amorin. So that's what he's saying, right? Also, this is interesting, right? And I don't often agree with what Paul Scholes says, because I think he just talks a bit of shit. I don't think he makes sense. But I was listening to him, he brought up a really, really good point the other day. If the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
So you going to get a manager from a lower standard league where there's two teams that can battle for the league. You may have occasional dalliance with Europe, but you never really do anything of substance. You bring in your own players that you know with your own coaching staff and wonder why it doesn't work in a new league. This is the exact thing that they're doing with Amorin as Ten Hag. It's the same thing. So what if Amorin wants to go and get this Grikios, I think that's how you say it, the Swedish striker who used to play for Coventry, who's got a 96 million euro release clause.
It's a funny old thing, yeah.
Yeah. What if they want Giancarlo Ignacio, the centre back, who everyone's raving about because he's quick and he can turn? What if they want Pedro Goncalves? So those three there are the same as Xerxes, Lisandro Martinez, and Antony. The centre backs, a winger, and a striker. This seems very similar to what happened 2.5 years ago when they brought in Ten Hag and allowed him to do this. So, is it not the same thing? Ten Hag, if you look at Ten Hag's reputation before, was he not talked about as like a G and this guy's going to go places? He brought through De Ligt, he brought through De Jong, he got the best out of Bergwijn.
This was my point about not having a club ethos where you have a certain style of play, you have certain players to fit that style of play, you play in this system, and if you have to swap out the manager should be a tiny piece, one cog in the machine that you swap out. You go and get a manager that can work with what you've already got, that will suit your style of play, and you swap that out, and so you don't have a massive turnover of players. Okay, they may bring their own backroom team, they may bring their own players because they've got the right ideas, but you cannot have a massive overhaul in terms of playing staff. Otherwise, what you're doing is new manager comes in, gets rid of all the players that the previous manager brought in, spent tens of millions, sometimes hundreds of millions, buy a load of new players. In 18 months, that doesn't work. The average lifespan of a Premier League manager is about 2 years now. So in 2 years' time, the new manager comes in, different ethos, different style of play. He comes in, he doesn't like the players the previous manager brought in, overhaul again, budget made available for the next lot, and it's like a continuous cycle of spending money and out with the old, in with the new. This is why the European model with the director of football taking control of the club ethos and having a style of play, a shape that's from the senior team all the way down to the under-9s, and then the new manager that comes in will be earmarked on already being able to cope with that style of play. Do you know what I mean? And this is why I'm saying swapping out the manager, I don't think is going to be the be-all and end-all.
No, I mean, to me, it looks at the same thing as like we've spoke about before, right? If you play a certain style of football, you will buy players to suit that style of football. If you're going to change the manager who doesn't play a similar or a like-minded style of football, those players you've got are a waste.
Yeah.
So then what you're going to do, you're either going to now have other clubs and it is no disrespect to them, so teams like your Brightons, your Brentfords and teams like that who are going to look at certain players thinking he fits our model, but I'm paying nowhere near what you paid for him because you need to get rid of him because he ain't going to play for you. So now you're just pissing money in the wind. Like, what are you doing? Like, come on, play the game. Surely the model. I mean, I play a lot of like management games as a kid. I can't wait to talk about retro football games, by the way. I was speaking to you the other day about me getting Football Manager, and anyone who plays Football Manager on a long-term basis will understand the plan that you have is to bring in a style of play that you bring in. You get the best out of the wonder kids to take them to their level, to sell them, to create the money, to buy an established star and 3 more wonder kids, and you have a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
How is that hard to understand? If you are a club of Man United stature, how have you not got a conveyor belt of 2 or 3 Garnacho style players, 2 or 3 style Fernandez players? We spoke to the Leeds fan. He said to us before, when he was speaking to, if it was his name, Eddie Gray, had said to, was it David O'Leary? We've got, if you can't afford players, we've got 4 or 5 players ready to step up here. And you have players coming through.
Woodgate,
Robinson, Woodgate, Bowyer, Kuehl, Bridges. Surely, with the structure that we have now in football, with the scouting, with everything, you should really know that this is going to happen. So, right, I don't care who's in charge. We know we're playing this style of play, so we put that down. Barcelona is the best example, and we keep going back to that. It doesn't matter who's in charge. You play the Barcelona way. If you can't play the Barcelona way, you're not manager. So if you want to play the Man United way, do it. But you have to hire managers for that. And I think now there's no style at Man United at the minute. Like, I think this is the issue with Ten Hag. Ten Hag has had arguably not the 2 worst years. I mean, if Ten Hag, like you said earlier, if you're going to judge the league after 9 games, if me saying, like, look where they are, the 14th, you have to act like you're 14th, then you can't judge the manager after 9 games.
No.
It's a bit. They're judging the manager after the last 2 years with no style of play, no way of playing. You can't be Man United playing counter attack. You can't fill a 90,000 stadium sitting there getting pumped 7-0 by Liverpool, like your biggest rivals. You can't do that.
But this was my point when you were saying you wouldn't think that Thomas Frank would be a bad idea for them. I can't see them sitting there in Old Trafford watching someone who's so pragmatic in their approach. But like you said, Devil's Avocado, you made the very good point that Devil's Avocado. You made the very good point that perhaps he's just working with what he's got. Perhaps if he had the talent and the money and the resources that Man United have, then maybe you would have a different style of play. Just a quick thing talking about that, like the resources. Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo had a lot to say when he was there at United, and he fell out with them. And he said that a lot of the facilities were exactly the same and hadn't been upgraded since his first time there at the club. I mean, for what was for so many years the richest club in the world, that's pretty damning, isn't it? You know what I mean? The fact that they'd not put any money into facilities, upgraded facilities, physio and recovery and stuff. What do you think of that?
Ridiculous. Like, come on. We've spoke about this before when we've spoke about bars that we've worked in. If you're gonna have certain things to draw a crowd, you need to do certain things to keep them. So it's all good and well. You might get a customer coming in to sit on a crappy 7-Up chair or one you get from a brewery or whatnot. But I guarantee you, I'd rather go and sit more times in a bar with a comfortable chair. Maybe the singer's not as great, but the drinks are reasonably priced and I'm getting what I want. Or however, you can choose. Do I want a comfy seat, a great singer, but I pay a little bit more for it? I'm more likely to pay a bit more. And if you're going to piss money away on like well, not even blaming the Glaziers, but the Glazers are in charge a lot of the time. How are you not updating this? You've got the debt on the club, which means you have cash to invest in it if you want to. So put it in. You're selling players. You sold Ronaldo for so much money and didn't invest back into it. You sold so many players back in the day and you're not really invested as much. Yeah, they've invested a lot, but not for the intake they take. Like when you compare what United were intaking before, regular Champions League, won a couple of titles when the Glazers first come in, you've got money. That stadium, Old Trafford, should still be immaculate, but then you see videos of the place is leaking. Like, come on. You charge a lot of money to go and watch a game of football when your food there is expensive. Getting there all the way from London is expensive to support Man United. It's a long way to go. The shirts are expensive. When you get there, your programs are expensive, and then your squad is expensive and not playing well with an expensive manager for a fucking league over your head. Come on. That's ridiculous.
Do you not think the business has been bad though? Because the only experience I can draw on is when Moyes last season tried to sign Harry Maguire, he was on such a high loyalty bonus that they tried to pass it onto the buying club, who was like, absolutely not. We're already bidding X amount for the player. Yeah. We're not paying that because Maguire hadn't asked to leave. They owed him something like 7 million in loyalty payments. So as soon as you are selling someone like that for 15 mil or whatever, half of that's, potentially going to him, or you've halved your transfer value. The same with Wan-Bissaka. There was a whole to do with Wan-Bissaka because he didn't ask to go. The fee was 15 million. At one point, he went down to 30 million. Then it went up to 18.5 million because they tried to factor in the 5.5 million that the club owed him in loyalty payments. In the end, I think West Ham agreed to pay 2 million, and then they met him halfway, and then he ended up agreeing it at like 3.5 just to get the move. But then he made that up with a signing on that. If you're putting all your players on a loyalty bonus that on the proviso that they don't actually ask and request a transfer, you've got to pay them out a load of money. Like, that's not good business, is it? And when you do want to sell those players that are maybe not in your first team, and I don't want to be harsh, but dead wood, right? Yeah. And you want to sell the dead wood and get them off your books to regenerate some funds to go and invest in the first team squad again. It's no point losing like 30, 40, 50% of their transfer value on the loyalty payments you've negotiated. That's bad business, isn't it?
Terrible business. What I think that is? That's the naivete of thinking they're still Man United from 25 years ago, where nobody wanted to leave United. You were only going to leave, basically, if you weren't playing. And that's the ethos about Man United at the time, is you still had something to offer if you weren't playing. I mean, Gary Neville was captain of the club for 3 years and he barely played a game because he was injured, and you knew.
David May.
He's your favourite. But then if someone was coming in for a United player, You need to ask for leave because the teams that are coming in for you were Barcelona, Real Madrid, big clubs that were coming in for you of the stature of United, but you wanted to, I want to go and play in Spain. Like your Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, you need to ask for the move now because it's Real Madrid. Ask for it. Otherwise, we're not going to let you go. You need to tell us you want to go. I think that's the mad thing about it. These players here, now, you're buying, some of them are above average footballers. Like, and that's being polite. Some of them are shit, but some of them are above average footballers on high wages that you can't shift on loyalty bonuses because you think that you're going to have to ask to leave because you're probably going to go to Real Madrid. Antony is never going anywhere near Real Madrid except for a stadium tour. That is it.
And the reverse is true. It used to be a case that for most of us clubs, certainly the West Ham level clubs, if Man United wanted your player, it was just a case of turn up and tell them you want the player and then not necessarily get as much as you wanted for them and they come and take them. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's maybe changed over the years as well. So you think maybe they're still stuck in those glory years mentality sort of frame of mind? Yeah.
Well, here's a great example for you, right? So for the last 18 months, the same thing as Alexander Arnold of Real Madrid. Now, apparently, that's almost a done deal now of Alexander Arnold going to Real Madrid. Apparently, it's almost a done deal.
Last I heard, he and Van Dijk and Salah were all renegotiating.
Yeah, they are. Van Dijk should sign a contract. Salah should sign a contract, but apparently Trent is almost a done deal, apparently. So I've heard.
Before you carry on with this, just before we end this one and we're getting on for 40 minutes, do you want to just text George? And I don't know if he wants to try again with his internet because we could hear him fine, but he was a bit put out by not being able to hear what was going on with us. I just would like a little bit of colour on Amorin or Amorin, as he says it. You know,
well, I'll tell you what Georgie said. Right. He's just heard from EE. There's a technician working on a fault in his area. That's what it is.
That'll be why. Yeah, that'll be why.
So we'll get him on again. So
yeah.
So the reason I bring that up is right. There's talk of the last 18 months of Real Madrid doing the charm offensive on Trent. Listen, if you want to win the Ballon d'Or, you win the Ballon d'Or at Real Madrid. Unless you're Vinny Jr.
Till this week.
Awkward. Yeah. We'll talk about that later. But they've also been doing the same thing with Alphonso Davies, the Bayern Munich left back. They've been charming him because they want, the plan is they'll have Trent at right back to replace Carvajal. They'll have Alphonso Davies as the left back.
Is he Canadian?
Mende. Yeah. They'll have Ferland Mende, who's ambidextrous, can play any side, as sort of the sub to play either side of them or to be the replacement. Yeah. And then they've got, I think his name's Fran Garcia. They've sent him out on loan. He's supposed to be a good looking left back as well, supposed to be. Apparently. But then Man United apparently are talking about, we're interested in Alphonso Davies. Like, how were you trying to compete with Real Madrid? Like, you know when you play football manager games and you declare your interest in someone who's out of your league and they just go, even the media laugh at you. Like, come on. Why the hell?
Thinks you're broken, Ruth.
Yeah. Why would the hell Alphonso Davies on a free transfer, mind you, right? He's 26, I think he is, or 27. Up there with top 5 left backs around the world at the minute. Brilliant. He's basically like a Canadian left-sided Kyle Walker. He's not the greatest at defending, but he's so fast he can catch up with you.
Yeah.
Why would he consider go to Manchester United over Real Madrid? Why would he consider going to Manchester United over Liverpool? Are going to need a left back. Man City use the centre back, a left back at the minute.
What's happened to Robbo?
Robbo's been bad the last couple of games.
Has he really?
Yeah, he's been bad.
He's been permanent.
As a player, he's still one of my favourites. But I just think now this is where we need to be looking at a left back. If I'm Liverpool, I'm looking at a left back now. Just keep Robbo about, but you got to look at a left back. Even the game against Brighton, he was exposed last night so many times. Like the game against, I know it was against Saka. Saka had him on toast. Like it was a Sue Fowl moment, like one of them.
Oh no!
Yeah. You know, you just think someone go and help him. I mean, luckily enough, Diaz came back and he was helping, and then Van Dijk was coming across as well. But if you can't do the way that we play the one-on-one defending, and you're getting caught out now, that's going to always be an issue.
That's alarm bells. Was Slot standing there watching that over and over again and not making any changes?
No, he did make the change. It was automatically done. This is one of the benefits of, I think, Liverpool. Diaz automatically seen what was coming on, and Diaz came back. Right. I don't know if anyone had spoken to him. McAllister was playing on the left side of our midfield 3. He got a booking for taking out Saka. to give Robertson a bit of a breather, and Van Dijk was coming across as well. But Saka was so good against us, like that game. He was just really, really good. Like just absolutely had Robbo on toast. Like it was just mad. But then Trent, like as I watched the game, Trent had Martinelli in his pocket. I think Martinelli put in maybe 2 or 3 crosses, and 2 of those times he was in the space because he wasn't tracking back with Trent, and we've lost the ball in a careless area. Not Trent's fault because we know what Trent's going to do. But Trent defensively there was really, really good. He's been good this whole year. Listen, I'll do it.
Go on. Tell us why Trent Alexander-Arnold is a good defender.
Right. Don't even get me started on this, bruv, right? Because you think Alexander-Arnold is a bad defender because you only see the attacking concepts. You see what he does going forward, and you see players cheating, hiding, not getting back in the space, and they get the ball. That is fine, but we have a plan for that. We have a centre midfielder who stays back. We have the left back, Robbo, when Trent's going forward, will stay back. We have the centre back that should shift across. Right now that Konate has learnt that and shift across and knows I don't need to win the ball every time, he stands them up, and when they try and play a foot race, the boy just bullies them off. He did it to, I can't remember which Arsenal player did. He did it to Trossard. He stepped across Trossard and shouldered him, and Trossard just stopped. He could have got the ball. It was ridiculous. So for you to sit there and tell me, knowing that your fullback is Soufal, shut the front door. You're telling me about defending? Think about it, bruv.
Think about it. I was going to rebuttal, but I can't even be bothered. Listen, can we just get a few words what we can expect on Amorin from George? If he could text, and we'll just waffle for 5 more minutes whilst he puts something together, because I'm curious on his style of play, how you think he's going to fit the Premier League. Notice I didn't say Premiership, as it hasn't been the Premiership since 2006. And I'm curious on his mentality on having, maybe having Van Nistelrooy shoved upon him. Is he the kind that will, sort of suffer and put up with that? So in the meantime,
suffer no fools.
They're going to suffer no fools, gladly. So in the meantime, you can let us know. Yeah, tell you what, though, United fans, you might not like all what we've been saying today, but ain't you relieved that you never saw this for real?
Could you imagine? Could you imagine United setting up with 2 goalkeepers, 4 centre backs?
Unpopular opinion, right? Southgate would have been more successful than Amorin's going to be with that Man United team, right? And I'll tell you why. Because he would have got to the final of an FA Cup and lost, and then the final of a League Cup and lost, and then the final of the UEFA Cup and lost. And everybody would have told you that that's success, because in England, that's how we measure success, by being a loser. But at least we got there and tried.
Well, you know what? I think you could be right with that, because like I've said before, what Paul Scholes said, United have just done the same thing they did with Ten Hag. It's just Portuguese this time. So if you look on track record, yeah. I mean, what Scholes said, which I thought was actually quite clever for him, he said, why didn't United leave Van Nistelrooy in charge for another 3 weeks? Because Sporting Lisbon in the next 3 weeks have to play Manchester City, and they have to play, I think it's Aston Villa. Surely that is a perfect...
How they get on against them and gauge it.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what, Scholes, there? I'll take my hat off for you, sir. You can have that one. That's madness. So no one else is going to go and get Amorim in a minute. All the other big teams are going to... Company's not going to get sacked at Bayern Munich. And Man City are not going to go for Amorin. Real Madrid are not going to go for Amorin because they have Xabi Alonso in their midst. The only team that may have gone for Amorim if their manager left would be Bayer Leverkusen. And I don't think Xabi Alonso is going to leave to the end of the season. So United have that 8 weeks to wait, 3 weeks to wait, the next 3 games, and see how he did against Manchester City. I mean, what if his team turned up there, they rocked up, were open, exposed, and got decimated?
Right. I've just thought so. Devil's avocado.
Go for it.
Is Ruben Amorim the best person for the Man City job? And was he the first person on their shortlist? Or is that a cock block move to stop Man City getting him when Pep goes at the end of the season, when they've got all their charges and he thinks, nah, fuck that, I've done my time, I'm out of here. So is it just more the fact that they've moved on him to stop Man City having him? Or is he genuinely who they wanted at the helm?
I would say, for track record of United, it could definitely be that. But they've learnt this lesson the hard way. You did the same thing with Cristiano Ronaldo and brought him back. And look how that ended.
That was just to stop Man City getting him, as you say.
Yeah. So what you did that and it didn't work. You chose over a club legend, bona fide greatest of all time. You chose Ten Hag over that because he wasn't Ten Hag signing. It reminds me of when Liverpool bought Robbie Keane and he wasn't a Rafa Benitez signing. Rafa Benitez just shoved him out on the left wing if he played him. Wasn't bothered. You ruined a guy's career. For about 3 months. He wasn't the same player afterwards. But yeah, so that's crazy. So if they have done that, I think that's very short-sighted and it's very un-Man United. Man United have their own style. They used to always have their own style.
That's what I'm saying. Has that changed?
We've seen teams do this before. We've seen when Real Madrid tried to get Arsene Wenger from Arsenal and he said no. So they just decided, right, we're just going to buy every player you're interested in. And they bought Julio Baptista. You know what I mean? And then ended up sending him on loan to Arsenal. And they got the best of it. There was another player that they were into. I can't remember who the other Arsenal player that were into. Real Madrid ended up buying him. I want to say Robinho. No, it wasn't Robinho. Just seeing what Georgie's saying.
So cool. And I'm interested to know what he's saying about Amorim.
He said he'd need to do his research because he doesn't know him personally himself. Right. He's not a Sporting fan. However, he did play for Sporting Lisbon as a kid, but he's a Benfica fan.
George played for Lisbon as a kid. He's a Benfica fan. So he doesn't have a brief outline on his style or his personality even.
No, but he says he can ask about and he played for Sporting Lisbon in a soccer game.
Right.
Because he does that in but he's a Benfica fan. Like, listen, I've got a mate Luis who's a Benfica fan. Luis, would you ever wear the Sporting colours? Like, because George is a traitor. He's a traitor. I mean, if we're on a Man United conversation, I don't mind donning other teams' jerseys here. I'm not wearing a Man United jersey. I mean, even now, I'm rocking out. The retro Holland is back out.
See, I like kits, and I admire some of the kits you get. And what we want to do when we build this up, we want to get sponsored by that mystery kit company, don't we? That sends you a kit a month, and we can
do a giveaway.
Do a giveaway. Subscribe. But you'll never see me wearing a different kit. Not an Italian kit. Not you won't. I can only wear West Ham, and I don't even really wear colours. If you see anything, you'll see me in a polo with a little Amazon or whatever. You know, I very rarely wear colours. I'll buy the strip like each year. I'll buy it for Ronnie, like the little boy will want it, and I'll buy it so I've got it, and it's hung up in the wardrobe, and I've got like in year order. But I very rarely wear colours, and you know, and if I do wear like club paraphernalia, it'll be more subtle. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But I've got a question for you, Lever. Right.
Go on. I've got one for
you. When I was looking. Right.
I've got an unpopular opinion after you.
Oh, like it. What I want to know is, if you could take the top teams in the Mickey Mouse League, the Farmers Leagues, and put them into a league, would it be comparable to any of the other top 4 leagues? So, as an example, if you could take out Rangers and Celtic, Benfica, Sporting Lisbon, and Porto, you take out Ajax, Feyenoord, and PSV. Who else would you take out? So you take out maybe your big Russian clubs like your foreign clubs, maybe like Shakhtar Donetsk, and put them into just a one league.
So you'd have
how comparable would that be?
Hard split. You could have like Olympic Olympiacos and Panathinaikos.
So take the big clubs from there and add them to a league. Do you think that'd be comparable to any of the other leagues? I mean, I would automatically, instantly say it would be more competitive than
that's the word I was going to say. Yeah, that's it'll be more competitive. That'd be interesting as a spectacle. But then, aren't you just describing the Conference League or the UEFA League in league format instead of it going to knockout stages?
Yeah, but I mean, so do you think that would create more of a buzz and more of an atmosphere? Actually, say you had it as a season-long thing.
But then what? But then you got to think about the fallout of what would happen to I don't know if they'd like it or not. Like, but what would for the Scottish league for?
So how many teams? So it's Celtic, Rangers, Porto, Lisbon, and Benfica. So you take out Ajax.
George, I'll have you for that, for getting them.
Yeah, you take why he's a Sporting Lisbon fan. Take out Ajax, PSV, Feyenoord, and then add 2 more. So say you add Panathinaikos and Olympiacos, right? So you've got 10 teams. Scrap the Europa League and have that instead of that midweek. So they're still playing their league, but once every 2 weeks they play a Wednesday night game, and this is all the season for the end of the year.
Scrap the Europa League, but then
no, for them. I mean, for these 10 teams.
Then what level of Premier League club would you put in that mix?
I won't touch any Premier League club. I'm taking out the biggest ones from their league.
Why couldn't Southampton or someone be in that?
Where we have the idea would be to compare it to the English league. So, for example, if you look at the top 4 leagues in England, in the world at the minute, in Europe, you've got the Premiership, La Liga,
and the Premiership's in 2016.
The Bundesliga, and then you've probably got. I'd lean towards Serie A over Liga A.
Liga A is in a state financially.
Yeah, it's a joke, isn't it? It's a joke. So say you take those 4, how comparable and competitive would those 4 leagues compared to against this 10-team sort of Super League team? Like how would the level of gaming be? What would it be something like if you're sitting there, we're out about somewhere? Oh, you know that PSV have got Benfica. Would that be something they'd interest you to watch? Would it draw you in with maybe even throw a couple of the Saudi teams in? Like, you know what I mean, to make it a bit more of a league thing. Would that be something that would draw you into? You know what? I'm backing Lisbon in this, or I'm backing Ajax to smash through this, or you know what? This is where Rangers and Celtic show they're comparable to teams in the other league. I mean, would it draw you in?
Me, no, because I don't really give a shit about anyone else but West Ham. I don't. It's just how I am. I don't really watch many other games. Obviously, I keep an eye on how we're doing this podcast for talking points and things to do with other clubs. But I very rarely, like on a Sunday, right, when it's my day off, if West Ham are not on, if they're played on the Saturday or they're playing on the Monday or whatever, I'm never, ever sitting at home watching Arsenal, Chelsea. I don't give a shit. And you'll say to me, what do you think of that? Did you see that over the weekend? And I go, I didn't see it. I'm not interested in watching other teams. I'm not. I don't sit and watch Champions League games. Oh, PSG versus Real Madrid or whatever. I'll have a look over the score when it's done. But other football fans would, like you would. So
I do, yeah.
Your behalf, you'd watch it because you watch everything. You know, like a mate of mine, Gio, like his bird's a teacher. So she works Monday to Friday, and then she's like, right, the weekends, like, let's go and do something. He's like, no, I can't because I'm watching the 12:30 game, then the 3 o'clock game, then the 5:30 game. Do you know what I mean?
The 8 o'clock game.
Yeah, then the 8 o'clock game, and he will sit there like making notes and whatever and everything because he's who I want to get on to do a Premier League 11 from this season where you've got to have one player from every all 20 teams. So give me your 11 and your 9 subs. You know, you can only use one team once. So if you have Edison,
one player from every club.
Yeah, you have Edison, you can't have Haaland. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you've also got to put someone in from Ipswich, and you've got to put someone in from Southampton, and you've got to put someone in from Everton. And so you've got to be careful how you do it. I want to do that. And I want to do an episode of I want to get a guest on, someone who's a good speaker, like a Jules, like a Beanie, like a Marco, and do an hour of unpopular opinions.
I like that.
And I've got an unpopular opinion to wrap this Man United heavy show on. And I've got an unpopular opinion for you. And I would like you to tell me if you agree with this or give me your argument as to why this is a wrong unpopular opinion. Are you ready?
Go on.
Manchester United are still the biggest club in the world, or at least one of the biggest clubs in the world. They've got a far-reaching fan base. from all corners of the globe. You will often, we joked about it, you will often see kids, impoverished kids in Africa, running around in Man United shirts. They've still got the one of the biggest sponsorship deals just on their history. We're going to do an episode on what makes a big club. Is it history? Is it players? Is it vibe? Is it trophies won? Yeah, you have to say, hard time though they're having at the moment, they are still a monster club, still the biggest club in the world, and their name still adds weight. If you're a footballer in league and West Ham come in for you or Manchester United come in for you, they and I believe we're slightly higher than them at the table at the moment, although we did say we're early in the league, so we ain't got the full picture. I would imagine 9 out of 10 players would prefer to go and play for Manchester United because they are still a giant. Agree or disagree?
I would agree with that. As horrible as it is to say, because I like them being shit. But
right, because I would have thought with you saying that they're not what they was and they're not what they think they are, I would have thought you would have argued that they've come down a level. They've gone from Champions League to Europa League.
You know why I say it? It's because I see when Liverpool did the same thing. We could still draw players, but we couldn't draw the players. That's the difference. So when we dropped down we were struggling down mid-tables and stuff like that, and we had the lean and the struggling times, and we had players like David and Gog leading the line, like Jay Spearing.
So if Vinny Jr. falls out with Real Madrid tomorrow over this boycott of the Ballon d'Or, and he feels like, you know, their politics and their boycotting is partly responsible for him not winning it, and he gets the arse ache with it, and he wants to leave Real Madrid, and he demands a transfer, how much chance have Man United got of securing him?
No chance, because there's other clubs that will be in for him.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Based, if money's the same, if he wants to get out of there for 50 million, it's all gone wrong, right? So all the bigger clubs have all got the money to do it and the wages to pay, and they pay that sort of wages, right? Because Bruno's on about 400 grand a week, so is Rashford, 350 grand a week. So, are you saying they've got no chance anymore?
They've got no chance competing with the big clubs, but they're a big club.
Why? Right, but are they still that giant?
They're not the giants of football. So, to me, the giants of football, you've got teams which are your Real Madrid, your Barcelonas. They're the giants of football. You've got right now, just because Man City don't have the commercial appeal as Manchester United or the reach they do, they've got more of the performance on the pitch, the infrastructure, the youth academy, the setup, the finances. They have more of the what makes a big club. So when we were going to try and plan this before about what makes a big club, what makes a world-class player, you have to, I think there's set criteria. You have to tick all the boxes or majority of the boxes to be classed as one of them. And United, they have the commercial side of it. They're well known, they're all over the world, and they've got a huge stadium. The stadium's in disarray. Have they got the money to do that? The on-field,
but historically, that's Old Trafford. That's the theatre of dreams. The lights, people want to play there.
Yeah, but would you want to go and sit and watch a game there?
No, but we're talking about attracting players because they're still a giant. They're still the biggest club in the world.
They're one of the most commercial clubs in the world, I'd say. If you put them around, I know you won't go like this, but if you had a choice of going to Spurs or Man United, in the positions they're in now, I think more players would pick Spurs than Man United because of where they are, and I think they would. But if you put United compared to teams around them in the league now, they're bigger than all the ones around them because of their commercial view.
Right, Devil's avocado.
Bring avocado out.
Devil's avocado. United are in disarray. We've just sat for an hour talking about the problems in the boardroom, the problems with the staff, problems with the manager, problems with retaining coaches that are not necessarily wanted. They've been so unsuccessful, right? They've still won more fucking trophies than Spurs in the last 2 years.
I knew that would touch a nerve.
No, it's true though, isn't it? It's true. Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. Devil's avocado. They may be in disarray. They may have to change their managers. They may be a production line for managers. They may have spent millions on players like Anthony that have not worked and wasted money. They may have coaches behind the scenes that are not even wanted. They may have a situation where they've got problems with the ownership. They don't know what Ineos's role is. They don't know what Radcliffe's role is. Yeah, they feel like they're off to their last year they were off to their worst ever Premier League start. This year they have beaten their own record and they're off to their worst ever Premier League start. They've still got more trophies in the trophy cabinet in the last 18 months than Spurs. Think about it. Listen, any other business before we call it a day?
No, I do have a Spurs fan who's willing to come on. I'm just going to try and plan him in. Yep, sorry. We did have a Spurs fan send us his team.
Yes,
and
we did. Strongly did, yeah.
Yeah, and before, listen, I'm not picking Sean's team apart, but he picked Stephen Carr over Kyle Walker. I'm saying nothing else. That's a David Raya comment.
Is he going for Eric Torsfair in goal?
He actually went Ian Walker, I think. No, it was Casey Keller.
He was it. Goodness me. He went for Steve Slade in midfield.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to actually try and get on. Don't think you know Jack Knight, but he's a Chelsea fan. I'll see if Jack will want to come and do his Chelsea team. It's a good shout.
Let's do it.
I'll message Jack. Get him on. But the only other business is the usual business.
Alicia Lehman, get yourselves in the comments. Let us know what you think. What a great guest George was, and would have been even better if he could have heard us. We heard him, but he couldn't hear us. So we'll sort out a day when his internet's back up and running. And I want to ask him, because he was telling us off camera about the translators in the game often are inaccurate. The whole Jose Mourinho being the special one wasn't actually what he said. It was a mistranslation that just sort of caught momentum and stayed like that. We want to pick his brain about football coaching, the players, his teams he's worked with. He was a set piece coach, so I want to talk to him about both how important set pieces are, the role in the modern game of throwing coaches. I want to ask him about communication, because we've got a situation with my team, excuse me, where Lopetegui's come out and said that maybe that his communication needs work and that the players don't understand what he's saying after 5.5 months. So that sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. So I want to speak to George about all these topics. Until then, I don't know, it's been a bit hickledy-pickledy this episode, but hopefully it was all right. Until then, thank you for joining us on
Opinions from Offside.
And we will see you again soon. Thank you so much for your company. As always, like and subscribe and keep balling.
Keep balling.